Good afternoon and welcome to January's episode of VRM Insider. We are so excited to have everybody with us today. I'm going to let the participants have a few minutes to jump into the room. I see everybody coming in now. We're expecting a great showing today on this super exciting, brilliant, fun topic to cover. 1099s.
Not dry at all.
We're gonna party like it's 1099. We gotta make the most of it, right?
Yep.
All right, so I think that everybody is probably just about here, so let's just get rolling. I want to let everybody know right off the bat, one of our huge objectives here at VRM this year is to make sure that we honor your time and your space. We know you guys are super busy. We know you wear 110 different hats and the roles that you play. So one of our commitments to you for 2021 is we're going to try to keep everything, including VRM Insider, as short and sweet as possible. Meaning we normally run VRM Insider about an hour long, and this year we want to aim at something a little bit shorter, something more like 30 to 45 minutes, unless it is of extreme consequence if we don't. So that's just something a little bit different you can expect from VRM Insider this year. We'd like to apply that to any of the other training that we do this year, any of the advertisements we send out, any of the help articles that we send out. We want it to be short and sweet and to the point, so that you can easily digest it in just a few bites. And if you need more information, you can come back for it later. So that's our commitment to you. We want to say happy 2021 to everyone. We know that it's been a little bit of a rocky start to the year, but let's just get it over with and then the smooth sailing ahead, right? Let's just get it all behind us now. Michelle and Tammy are with us today. You guys should all know these faces by now, but Michelle Smith is our Director of Support and Training. She's been with us here at VRM for quite a long time and is definitely an expert when it comes to the VRM system. And Tammy Taylor is our Director of Installations. She also works extremely closely with Michelle and her whole team, and they cross-pollinate a lot. She knows the system backwards and forwards. And so the two of them have come to us today with some updates to how you're going to be doing 1099s this year in the VRM system, along with some other tips and tricks and pointing out a few other changes that have been made when it comes to your 2020 taxes and how you're going to be doing things. So like I said at the beginning, this is such exciting information for you. Well, I would imagine that if it's going to make your life easier, it would be really exciting if you're an accountant or working in that role. That's not me. So I'm going to turn this show over to Tammy and Michelle. If you guys have questions throughout, you can drop those in the Q&A section below. That's where there's a little speech bubble if you hover down at the bottom of your screen. Tammy's going to be monitoring that. If she thinks that it's appropriate to stop where they are, they will stop and read those questions out and answer them. If not, she'll hold them to the end. So if you don't get your question answered, don't worry. She'll definitely get back to it. We will have a replay of this available for everyone. You'll be able to find that in an email, blog form, and on the admin console. And just be sure that if you have any additional questions beyond today, you can always leave those for us at help@vrmgr.com. All right, Tammy and Michelle, take it away.
Michelle, I'm just going to turn it over to you so we can dive right in, and then anything for the wrap up, I will just come in at the end. Maybe. She might be frozen. Oh, she dropped. All right. So
we have a backup plan for this.
We do.
Michelle has had some technical difficulties the last few days, so we're going to give Tammy a few minutes to pull her screen up. We already planned for this. Michelle is going to be super frustrated with us and the whole process. So hold on just a minute, everybody.
All right. Let's see here. All right. And when she pops back in, I'm going to end up turning it over to her again because she is the expert in all of this. Oh, look, she's already back. Maybe I don't need to share. I'm ready though now.
I apologize. My,
Okay, I was just getting ready to share my screen, just got it up, and you came in and saved the day.
I do apologize. My laptop has not been cooperating with me lately. So I hope that I don't have this problem during the presentation, but Tammy's got my back. So
Yep.
let me just reset since I lost everything. Give me just a minute. I apologize, guys. All right, so where's my other screen? There it is. Okay.
And Tammy and I we're going to go and turn our cameras off too, just so you guys have full command of the screen, and let Michelle take it away.
Okay. All right. Again, I apologize for that. And I really appreciate you guys joining us this afternoon to go over the year-end review process, and also to allow us to show you what changes we had to make in VRM to account for the IRS, removing the non-employee compensation box from the 1099 miscellaneous form, and now adding a new 1099 NEC form. So Tracy had sent out a email and was on our bulletin board that our release 6.13.0 was going to be released on Monday night, the 18th. We did have to make a change to that. The management team felt it was best to get this out last night because there was a change that was needed with the media file for the 1099s that our development team was great about. They got
Michelle, can you hear us? Because we can't hear you.
All right. Tammy, you want to go ahead and pull your screen up?
Yep. Let me move everything back over.
Again, everyone, we're so sorry about this. We'll just let Tammy drive the screen, even if Michelle does pop it back in, and then she can do the commentary if needed.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump in here on our first tab on getting this all set up.
You need to share your screen.
Oh, it's not sharing, sorry. Thank you. Share. All right, can y'all see it now?
There we go. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump in and start with what you guys are going to need to know. So there are two different areas here within the VRM to set up the 1099s. The first one is you're going to go under your sysconfig. Hey, Michelle, you're back?
I'm back. Yeah, if you don't mind, just you can do the presentation part, Tammy, because I don't know if that's the problem, and hopefully I can stay on to talk about it.
Sure. I was just starting to dive in here on the setup and talking about sysconfig. I hadn't even gotten to financial or company, so I'll drive the slides and you talk. Maybe. Can you hear me, Michelle? All right. Let me, let's see. I'm going to have her call in. So she's on a phone. All right, so while we go ahead and talk about the setup here is under sysconfig, and the first one is under financial, and it will pop up this screen here. And from here, you'll go down here to the 1099 setup. If you have multiple offices within your system and they're all going to report with the same tax ID number from your company, you can use this box here for the check 1099 setup for all offices, so that it will pull all the information from all the different offices into one 1099 for all of your owners and one in for all of your 1099s for your vendors. If you have different tax IDs for each of your offices, then you'll want to make sure that that check mark here is unchecked for so that it doesn't create the 1099s just with one, and you'll set it up at each office and it will create them for each office. But once you do that, when you come in here, you click this 1099 setup, this form right here is going to populate. This is going to look the same. This form is the same for here and for up here when we go and click this one up here for the company. So you'll set it up in both spots. You're going to end up putting your company name, address, zip code, the contact person if you want that to print on the 1099, the company phone number, and if you want a contact email to print on the 1099, you'll put that in there as well. Those are not required fields, but but some companies like to print them on there for people to contact them. And then you'll have your EIN number in here. Do not put any dashes in on the EIN number. It will automatically populate the dashes for you. If you do put a dash in, it's going to drop that last digit of the EIN, or if you're using a social security number, it'll drop the last two. So make sure that you don't use any dashes here. And then if you do have to file your 1099s through the FIRE system with the IRS electronically, this is where you're going to populate your transmitter code and then your transmitter name. So you'll populate that code that you received from the IRS in here, and then put the company name that's registered with the IRS that goes with that transmitter code here, and click save. And you're going to repeat this form here when you come up under system configuration company. You'll go to offices, you'll select the office, and you'll select the 1099. If you have multiple offices and you're still sending one 1099, you still need to set up this form under each individual office, even if this has been selected. So this is going to make it so that all of them are created at the owner and vendor level for us, but it's going to then pull the information that prints on the 1099 from this office level setting. So just be sure to do this in both places. All right. Michelle, did you join us via the phone? I'm not sure if she did or not. Okay. The next thing that we will look at here. All right. So here is populating the 1099. So to start the process of doing the 1099s, you are going to have to come up under accounting and select the 1099 option here. If the client is configured if your offices are configured with different tax IDs for each office, then when you populate the 1099s, you have to first select the office one at a time at this drop down. So here we're going to populate the year that we're doing the 1099s for, so 2020. And if you have unique tax ID numbers that we talked about that have to be done at the office level, then you'll populate these for each of the offices. So you'll select one office, and then you'll, when the office is selected, then you would select all, and then you will go ahead and click populate the tax year. If it's the same office, if it's the same tax ID for all offices, then you can go ahead and here there'll be another option besides the two listed here of all offices, and you can just select all offices and then click populate the tax year. Once the year has been populated, you'll be able to then select owners and or vendors to then be able to look at the print summary. So, whoops. All right, so here is where you will be able to look at the, to review the tax year and for each of the vendors and owners. So one, we went to accounting first, then we did the 1099s, then we populated the tax year under all, and then it will populate this field here. Once we click the populate tax field, it's going to bring up this sub box, and it will then list all of the owners that are in your system for you to go through and approve. You cannot print the 1099s or create the media file when you have all selected. Here, this all, because your media file has to be unique to the owners and unique to the vendors, because with the new form, the NEC form, then you have to submit both 1099 miscellaneous for your owners and a 1099 miscellaneous media file if you're going to submit those electronically. And if you're not submitting them electronically, you have to do a 1099 miscellaneous or 1096 miscellaneous for your owners. And on your 1099 NECs, either a 1096 NEC or a 1099 media file. So you want to make sure that when you're looking at each of these, that you are doing it for just the owners or just the vendors when you're looking at the print summary for these. If you'll give me just 1 second. All right. Once you have printed the print summary, this is what's going to populate down here is this 1099 summary for 2020. And in here, you're going to notice that it's going to list either all of your owners or vendors. Under this column here, type, the O is for owners. If it was a vendor one, it would have a V in it. You're going to see that it has the name of the owner in it, whether it's a person, an individual, or a company. It'll have their address. It's going to have the last 4 digits of either their EIN or their social security number. And then it's going to show the total amount that is going to be reported to them.
Steve had a question. When looking at the 1099 info, how are all of these sorted? And I think you may have just answered the question with the O's and the V's and how their names are listed, but is there anything else you want to address about how they're sorted?
Okay. On the here, when you're doing, when I went back 1 screen just so that we could look at this. This here, it is going to list them in the property name order when you're looking at the prints, when you're going through and you're reviewing each of these. So the owners are going to be listed, but it's in order of alphabetically by the property name. So it doesn't make a rhyme or reason. Because when you're looking at the owners or the owners' names, it doesn't look like it's in alphabetical order because it's in alphabetical order by the properties. Great question. Thank you so much for asking that. All right. All right. So, and it will do that but for both of it'll on the vendors, it will show them in alphabetical order by the vendor name, for the owners by the property name. All right. All right. Let me see here. I'm trying to go in order of Michelle's notes, and I apologize. So I'm just trying to play catch up here. Can you read that question, Tracy, while I play catch up here?
Absolutely. On the print summary, it is pulling only the line from the owner statement under rental income, or is it also including other credits? There are times that manual transfers are done, which is rental income, but they will go in they will go in under other credits. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread on the print summary, is it pulling only the line from the owner statement under rental income, or is it also including other credits?
It's pulling only the line from the rental income. So you'll notice here on the screen that when we're looking at these two here, it's just pulling this first line for each of the owners for what is due to them. If an owner has more than one property, it's going to take all of their properties and group them together into the one 1099. So it's going to take each line from the rental income and put it into, combine all of those together and put it into one amount for all of their combined properties. Hey, Michelle. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
Welcome back. Hopefully I haven't messed it up too bad.
Oh, Tammy, which slide are we on? I'm sorry.
I'm on slide 5.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and
Okay.
I'm on point 2 of your notes.
All right. Thank you so much, and hopefully I can stay around this time. We'll see what my laptop decides. Okay, thank you for stepping in. I really appreciate that, Tammy.
No problem.
All right. So this slide here is, we're talking about comparing the 1099s. Okay. So as Tammy was saying, a lot of times common questions that we get are, my 1099 amount for my owner doesn't match the owner statement. So what she was talking about is a couple things to think about. Does the owner own more than one property, be it short-term or long-term? If those properties are connected to the same owner profile, it's going to show under 1099. Okay. And the other thing to think about is, if that owner owned a property throughout the year that they maybe sold, so they owned it for 6 months in the beginning of the year, they're no longer assigned as the owner to that property, and sometimes we forget about that. And but any income that that owner received during those first 6 months of the year will be on the 1099. So that's another thing to think about when you come across these amounts not matching. Okay. So that's the two big things that we usually see in regards to this. So we can go on to the next slide, Tammy. I appreciate it. Okay, so this is another one that's kind of common. So when we talked about, does the owner own more than one property? So in this case, Smith LLC does. Now, one thing we want to point out here, you see I have my little arrow down there pointing to the blank spot. On the 1099 summary, if there's a 0 set up at that owner profile for the social security number / tax ID number, that's going to be blank. So of course, before you do print or you create your media file, you're going to want to update this information. Okay. You can do that at the owner profile, and then when you repopulate the tax year, that should carry over into the tax or the 1099 entry. Okay. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Now we have this total amount here for this owner that, looking at just one of their properties, it doesn't match. So we look at both properties, and the east of the sun property on the lower owner statement, that one, you see the owner only owns 50.10%, okay, 50.10%. So the rental income is going to display down for year to date for the entire amount of income for this property. So we need to take the percentage that this owner owns, and if we add the 18,557.04 to the amount of rental income for the property they own at 100%, that's how the system is calculating that 29,159.04. Okay, so that's the other thing to keep in mind as you're doing these reviews. Okay, all right, and on to the next one. All right, so once we've done our owner reviews, then we want to do our vendor reviews. So once we pull the 1099 summary for the vendors, same thing, you'll see ABC Plumbing. I do not have a social security number or tax ID number. You'll also notice in the address, I don't have the address there. I just have the city, state, and zip code. So you just want to verify that is completely set up properly in the vendor profile before filing your 1099s. The other thing I failed to point out on the owner's 1099 summary, in type over there on the right-hand side, you'll see for the vendors, it'll have type V. For owners, it'll have type O. Okay. And then what we're going to pull to compare these amounts to make sure everything matches, we have a payable by user batch report. That is under accounting reports. You'll want to pull that for the entire year. And the nice feature that we have there is there is a radio box button that you can select to only display vendors that have the print 1099 box checked on the vendor configuration. Okay, so in my test database, I have 3 vendors, one in green, ABC Plumbing. We have total and payables for them as $1,600, which matches our 1099 summary. We have Smith Cleaning Company. Now this vendor, you'll see, only has total payables of $294. So even though this vendor has the print 1099 box checked on that vendor configuration, they did not receive $600 or more of income. So a 1099 will not be populated. And then we have Wanda, and you'll see Wanda has a total amount of $1,187.50, which matches our amount on our 1099 summary. So as long as everything matches, we're good to move on. If there's any discrepancies that you cannot figure out, then of course you can always reach out to the help desk. We'll be happy to take a look at that with you. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to talk about is the different options here within the 1099 entries. So first we're going to look at, Tammy, the top left screen. So this is what you'll see once you populate the tax year. Once you're on this screen, if you go down, number 1 that we have there is add. If you look at the screen right below this, that matches number 1. So if you click add, that's what you're going to get. This can come in handy for our new clients where maybe they want to print their 1099s out of the one system. So they may have a vendor that hasn't done work for them within VRM yet, so they don't have any income, but they want to go ahead and add that vendor into VRM so they can just do one 1099 for the entire year. This allows you to add a 1099 entry manually, okay, where you would enter the information, the payee name, the taxpayer ID number. If you're entering it manually, you do not use any dashes here. That's just going to be the straight number, the address, city, state, zip code, and county, and then payment amount. So I'm sorry, Tammy, still over on the number one. Yeah, thank you. You'll put the payment amount and then the tax type. That's where you can identify, is this a tax ID number by using business? That's a drop down box there. If it's a social security number, you would select individual. Okay. And then payee type would either be owner or vendor. And then if you add an entry manually, you want to click that approve box, because if you don't approve it, anytime you have to repopulate that tax year, the system is going to remove that because it is not an automatic creation. So to save what you've done, you want to click that approved box. Okay. So then back up on the left-hand side, we have number 2, the edit, and Tammy is right there. What you'll see if you click that edit button is this screen here. So it has Aniston LLC, her tax ID number. All this information is being pre-populated based on what is set up at the vendor or owner configuration. One thing to keep in mind, I'd like to remind clients this time of year, when you're entering a new owner or vendor profile, if you enter a social security number with the dashes, that's how it comes through to the 1099 entry with the 2 dashes. It'll come through as individual in that tax type dropdown automatically. If you enter a number in that field on an owner or vendor profile, and there's no dashes, that translates in VRM to the tax type individual. So we see that as a social security number. So it's really important that if you have an owner or vendor that has a tax ID number, when you're setting up that owner or vendor profile, you want to make sure there's 1 dash in there. Okay. That way it'll come over into the 1099 entry correctly as a business. Okay. All right, so then back over, Tammy, to the left-hand side, number 3, we have delete. I don't have a screenshot for that because all that does is it deletes that entry. So if I needed to delete Aniston because maybe she is a foreign owner, we cannot print the forms needed for that out of VRM. So if I delete that entry, it'll remove it here. Now, again, keep in mind that would need to be done right before you print or you create your media file. Because if I delete this today and I come back in tomorrow to keep working on my entries, my 1099 entries, when I repopulate the tax year, it's going to repopulate her because she's in the system, okay? And she's set up as an owner and all owners receive 1099s in VRM. So that would be something you want to do right before you're ready to print or create the media file. Okay, number 4, we have flag. So what this does is if I go over to the last box over here on the right, you can check that box for flagging the entry. So if I'm looking at Aniston LLC and I'm comparing that to the owner statement and something doesn't match, if I click flag, it's going to put that X in the parentheses there. Okay, so that just indicates I need to come back to this one. I'm not going to stop because everything else is matching. I'm going to come back and research that one. And then you'll see the radial buttons right under office, all offices. From here, if you select that one for flagged entries, that'll only show you those entries that you have marked flagged. Okay. So that way you can just look at those entries rather than all of your owner and vendors. All right. Then we also have pending approval is another option that you can sort by. So if you sort by that, if you get through approving half of them today and you pick up tomorrow, if you sort by pending approval, it's only going to show you the ones that have not yet been approved. So it just kind of shortens that list for you. Okay. And then the last 2 buttons over on the back to the left-hand side there, we have approve. So from that screen, you'll see on the bottom left there, there's a preview of the payee's information. Aniston, her tax ID number. if all of that is correct, you don't need to click edit to go into the profile. You can just go ahead and approve it right from here. So you select approve button, you click on that, it'll approve that entry. Okay. And then up above Tammy, for ABC LLC, it's the third one down. You'll see it's marked as approved. So that's what that flag does. Okay. And then the button I didn't talk about, most of us know, the back button. If you click that, it takes you back to that previous screen where we see, you know, print 1099 summary and all, print summary and all of that. Okay. All right. So we can go on to the next slide.
So before we go on, back under, we had a question that popped up. They said the vendors with workers' comp deduction or garnishment, how is the 1099 total completed? I.e., are the deductions included or not on the 1099?
That's a great question. I believe that they are. I don't know the answer. I'll have to verify that. We can run a test as soon as we're done here. I believe that it's deducted, but I don't know off the top of my head. So if we can get who asked that question, or we can test it and then have Tracy put that in the release when she puts this out to everyone, so that you have an update. Everyone will have an update on that answer.
Yeah, we'll get it updated out there, and if you want to, whoever asked that question, if you want to IM me privately, I think you can do that in the chat and send that over to me and tell me who you are, and we'll make sure you get that answer direct as well. All right.
Great question. Thank you. Okay, so now we've done our review and we are ready to print our 1099s for the owner. So this is where our changes have come into play. So now on one of the I think it was the second screen in the presentation, when you select you go to 1099s over within the VRM system, and we get to this 1099 entry screen here. If you check the all button, you'll notice that print owner 1099s, print vendor, and create media file, those were all grayed out. So when you come to print your 1099s, you need to select the year, and then you need to select owners. Then you have the option to print owner 1099s and the create media file. Okay, so we're going to talk about printing first. So when you click print owner 1099s, you're going to get the next box down here. And that is going to allow you to adjust the margins. Now, what we suggest for both owners and vendors is that you don't set any margins yet, that you print out just the first page of the 1099s and you hold that up to the actual form to see where you need to adjust the margins. Okay, then you can come in here and play with the margins until it works for your printer. That's one thing. We cannot test every option of printers that's out there. We can give you certain suggestions when, like on the right hand side here, when you go into print, normally it's always been no scaling. So when I saw this, I was like, well, wait a minute, where is it? But Christian verified that the custom scale 100% is the new no scaling. So you want to make sure it's set to that as well. And then again, just play with your margins to try to get that matched up to where you need it to be. Okay. So that is our printing of the 1099. So if we go to the next screen, unless we have a question.
We do. We have one. Cynthia's asking if she has one owner that has a tax number in his setup and it appears to be a business. However, on the print summary, it's showing up as a blank spot in the 10 EIN SSN box. Why would that be happening?
That shouldn't be happening. So we have the company we can get with Jonathan right after this, and because I have ran that test. And if we go back to one of the other screens with the verification, you can see the owners do show a 1099 or a tax ID number. I think yeah, right here. So it should be in that format of a tax ID number, like the first one. So if it is not showing and it is on the owner profile, we will create a help ticket and we'll get with Jonathan right after this meeting. Yeah, that should be coming across on the 1099 summary form. The only time it should be blank is if there's nothing there. Now that I say that, also double check that it actually is 9 digits. I wonder if maybe that's the problem. If it is not 9 digits, it's 8 digits, that may be causing the problem. So Cynthia, if you can check that owner profile for us and make sure it is a total of 9 digits, and let us know. You can put it in the chat to Tammy and we will follow up with that if it is indeed 9 digits set up there. Okay, thank you for that. Okay. All right. So now that the IRS, we have the 1099 miscellaneous form for your owners, we're going to have 2 1096s. So on the last page, when you do the print 1099s for your owners, is going to be the 1096 form. That's over on the left-hand side. So this on the right-hand side is what our form looks like. So you'll see everything pre-populates except for the box. And we got rid of that automatically checking the box, I think 2 or 3 years ago, because they kept moving it around every year. So once you print that 1096, you'll just have to manually go in and check that box for the 1099 miscellaneous form. Okay. Everything else will pre-populate, or when you print it on the form, that'll all be in there. Okay. All right, so that's it for owner printing. So pretty much exactly, go ahead. Do we have a question?
Sort of. I was waiting for us to get to this point, but when you cut out, I forgot to pick up where you had left off the first time around, and they've asked if we touch again why the update release and what we've done with the 1096 and 1099s, and it's this NAC form. So if we can just touch on, what the update is that came out again, and what it entailed and why we did it. That you were talking about
Yes.
in the beginning, that would be great.
Okay, we'll do that right after this because that goes into the next topic we're going to be discussing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So then again, the same thing pretty much for the vendor. So now you have to select vendor as an option in order to see the print 1099, vendor 1099, and to create a media file for the vendor. The IRS expects both of those separate from the owners because it's a different form now. So again, when you click print 1099s, you're going to have the margins. Same thing, we do suggest printing the first page, setting scale, custom scale 100, and seeing where the margins need to be adjusted. Okay, so biggest things that have changed as far as the printing is really the fact that you need to select owner for just the owners and vendors for just the vendors. Okay, so it's going to be 2 separate media files as well as what we're going to go into on the next slide. So this is what we had to change recently. So our QA person did review this when we were notified in November that the IRS made a change and created this new 1099 NEC form. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. the 1096 for the vendor forms. So same thing as the owners, it's going to pre-print everything you see on the left, or it's going to print everything you see on the left. But you're going to have to select now that box for the 1099 NEC for the portion of the vendor's income. Okay. All right. So now the next box. So this is why we released early. So as I was saying, our QA person did review it. They did not notice anything about the media file changing. However, when we started doing the presentation, we noticed some things that looked like they did change. So we let them know about it. They put the change in place, and we as a management team decided to release 6.13.0 to you guys last night rather than Monday, because we know that our clients are going to be working on their 1099s the next couple of weeks. So we wanted to get it out sooner in case anyone is, already actively working on this and may need to create media files sometime between now and Monday. So that's why we released early. And that's the only thing as far as the 1099s have changed is the media file, okay, in this release. And in our dashboard, Tracy does have all the release notes for the other things that were within this release. But this is the only thing that changed as far as the 1099s. So now, again, when you select owners in the user type selection, when you create media file, it's going to create it just for the owners. So some of the spaces within the media file have changed. And that's what we needed to adjust on our end. And we had to separate them out for this media file. So now this media file is only going to show your owner information. And then again, nothing has changed in this aspect of it. Once you create the media file and it populates, you want to right click, save as, and save that as a text document. And I would just suggest within the name, identifying owner 1099 miscellaneous, so that you know which one's which, okay, when you have to upload that to the IRS, okay? And then the next screen is for the vendors. So now we're going to select vendor. Well, I messed up that screen, didn't I? So when you select user type vendor, you'll now have the create media file option available. When you click create media file for the vendors, you'll see it just has our 2 vendors on there, and that's it. So that's what it's going to create the media file for. So again, I suggest when you save this text document that you put in the name that it's the vendor 1099 NEC. So again, you can tell which one you are uploading to the IRS. The next slide is just, it's for your information. So Tracy's going to put this in a PDF. So you guys have access to the presentation, to the notes that we have on the presentation, which is pretty much what we went over, what we talked about here. And if you have to file electronically, or if you want to file electronically, just remember the transmitter code that is needed in the setup that Tammy went over earlier in the presentation, that you need to get from the IRS. So once you have applied for the fire system to file electronically with the IRS, then you will get that transmitter code, and that's what you would enter into VRM in that 1099 setup. So that is all that I have for today. So Tammy, do we have any other questions?
Nope, no other questions that have come out. And I've got our who to contact about the 1099 piece to follow back up with. Okay. And we are good to go.
All right.
So I just encourage you all that if there's any questions, you have any concerns before you print them, send them in, do anything, reach out to our help desk. Michelle and I are working closely with our staff there to make sure that you guys have everything you need, and we'll make sure that you guys feel good about everything that's going on. So don't hesitate to reach out to us there, and know that we're here, trying to make sure that everything is correct for you so that it's as easy as possible. We just had a question come in. On the new setup in VRM, you have a spot for printing company contact name and email. Where does that print on the 1099? it prints on the 1096. I don't believe it prints on the 1099, but let me look. Yeah, it's going, I take that back. It's going to print, let's see, down here on this area here. There's 2 spots on the 1096. I'm trying to.
Here, let's go to the next slide, Tammy. So the contact name on the setup is going to print over where it says Michelle Smith. So that's the contact name, phone number, and email address for who prepared the 1099s. Is that what the question was?
Yeah, but I think she was asking about the 1099 versus the 1096, and I'm just trying to pull out one of my 1099s here to see if it has if it will print that on there. And on the 1096, on the 1099, it's not going to print the information to the tax that you're going to send out. It's only going to print it on the 1096. And that may be where I had said it wrong earlier. So it will only utilize this on the 1096 piece if you populate that. Karen, I hope that answered your question. Michael, our payable by user report is hundreds of pages. Is there a way to print this report by vendor with total only?
So
to use to check.
I would ask a question if you're using the new payable by user batch report where you can just select the vendors that have the print and 1099 box checked. If you are using that, you know, I'm not sure if we can pull it in Excel, but maybe that's something we can ask tech support if that's available in Excel. That it would pull
by
vendor for each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just taking notes. The next, go ahead.
Summary.
Huh?
Or a summary, like a summary that you can then, if you have a difference, go back to and review each of the payables. So maybe that's something we can. So we'll reach out to our dev team, Michael, and see what we can find out.
All right, and then the next one is Cynthia. She just wants to confirm that for the vendors, they still get the same 1099 miscellaneous income, but when we send the 1096, we need to check the box no. There is actually a whole new form that you need to get for your vendors. It is called a 1099 NEC. And you will not report the information on the 1099 miscellaneous because the NEC is for non-employee compensation. And in box 1 of the 1099 miscellaneous, it's marked as rents. And because these are vendors, it's not a rent. So that's why the new form comes into play. So it's actually box 1 for the new form is called non-employee compensation, which you do have to get those forms and then use the 1096 that comes with them. Good question. Thank you for clarifying. All right. Any other questions that have come up?
All right.
Oh, no, there's one more.
Okay.
All right, this is the first I have heard that the foreign owner 1042S and summary page 1042T must be submitted electronically. Okay, so it only has to be submitted electronically if you have more than 250 to report. If you have less than 250 to report, you can submit it via paper, via mail. So that's not a problem. I must create them through IRS.gov website forms, print, and then mail to my owners. Are you stating to scan and save to the foreign owners forms to upload through the FIRE system along with the 1099s? Yeah. So no, you only have to submit the 1042T electronically if you have more than 250 for that particular form. So that the FIRE system is just strictly for 250 more than each individual form. So if you have more than 250 1099 miscellaneous, you have to submit the miscellaneous. As if you have 249 NECs, you don't have to submit it electronically if you don't want to. You can, since you have it. If you already have a transmitter code, then you can go ahead and submit that electronically, but you don't have to. All right.
All right. I think that is.
I think that's it. Oh, wait, no, she just said thank you. So, all right, yeah, I think that's it. If you guys have any other questions, help@vrmgr.com. Michelle and I'll make sure that we hop on those and get those answered for you, as well as our team. They're phenomenal and with a bunch of information as well, and can get most of those questions answered. But Tracy?
I'd just like to say thank you, everyone, for your patience with my issues that I had in the beginning of the webinar. So I apologize, and thank you for hanging around. Thank you for stepping in, Tammy. I appreciate it.
I didn't do you justice, but yes.
Well, I think they both made it relatively painless for everybody, because talking about taxes, like, again, not the most fun topic in the whole world, but we did it. Congratulations, everyone. You have now officially passed VRM University 2020 1099 school. You all get diplomas and pretty hats, and you didn't even have to put on a mask to come do it. So there we go. All right. Well, Tammy, Michelle, thank you so much for educating us today on these forms and for answering all of these questions. If you have additional questions, like they both have already said, please don't hesitate to send those in. Chances are, if you're thinking of a question, there may be others that are thinking of that too. It's great information for us to have and share with others as well. So please ask those questions at help@vrmgr.com. Until next time, we will catch you later. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.